Hi everyone, it's Luis again. Listen, today I'm making the second part to the two-part series on orchid, Phalaenopsis orchid culture. So this is going to be part two of the two-part series on Phalaenopsis orchid culture. So I left off where I am going, on this video I'm going to talk about common problems with your Phalaenopsis and how to avoid them. Second is going to be pests. And third is going to be a little bit more in depth on the fertilizer and the requirements that you have to meet in order to make your Phalaenopsis bloom. So I'm going to start off with media on your Phalaenopsis, because on the other one I said that I showed you a Phalaenopsis that was in moss, and I'll show it to you again here. This is my Schilleriana that I had in the other video, and I already treated for mealybugs and is doing great. And guess what? It's already gonna give me there's a bloom spike right there, so it's gonna bloom. This is an example of a Phalaenopsis in moss. This one right here is an example of a Phalaenopsis, and I have it in a mixture of perlite, bark, and some lava rock, and they both do perfectly fine. Now let's go into common problems that you find in when you buy an orchid, depending where you get it. Most places, if you buy them in a store, they come in a decorative pot like this, so it looks cute and fun. But there's a problem with this, because if you're new to orchids or to Phalaenopsis, you're going to keep on watering this, and guess what? It's going to rot. So this is how they normally come, in a little plastic little reservoir, and he holds the bark or moss in there, and he does have a drainage hole. So this is how you're going to get it, but you buy it like this. The problem is that if you keep on watering it here, the bottom does not have a drainage hole. So to solve this problem, you're going to have to do three things. One, drill a hole here, so when you water it, it's going to drain and you're fine. Second solution to this problem is, well, you're thinking, well, I don't want to drill a hole on there. So what do? You could do this. You could water it, bloop, 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 bloop. You water it, and then you drain it, and then you're good to go. The other solution is just take it apart, set this aside, water this in your sink or in wherever you water your plants. Once the water drains out, then you put it back in and everything's fine. Now, if you're concerned that the bottom of this moss is going to, through the wicker effect, is going to absorb water that is still standing in here, what you could do is put a piece of cork in here. Something small. This might be a little bit too big for this, but you just do something small, and then you put your plant there. Yes, he comes up and he doesn't look nice, but like I said, if you make it smaller, then you could set this in right there, level with the pot itself, and you would never know that this is in there. You just make it small and it will never touch the bottom. So that's problem, how you can fix that. Now, another problem that you can encounter with orchids out there is that they're going to be top heavy. So, this is not a good example of a top heavy plant, but if you have one of the big flowers, Phalaenopsis, they're going to be top heavy, so they're going to fall. So what you want is make sure it's weighted down. So the ceramic pot or the decorative pot that it's in needs to be heavy and sturdy so that this doesn't topple over. And the reason you want to do that is because you don't want to break your spike or your blooms when you're carrying it, or even by mistake. If you knock it over by mistake, it's going to be more difficult to topple this over if the center of gravity is low. Now, another thing is potting media. What kind of pots do Phalaenopsis like? According to this guy, they don't like tall pots. So do never pot something in something that's this tall. Phalaenopsis don't like it. They like something shallow and short, not something tall. They don't like that. Now, another thing, let's go on to, those are the common problems with that. The common problems with pests are, there's mainly three things. There's mealybugs. I already made a video of mealybugs, so look at that. There's snails and slugs. And there's spider mites. Spider mites, they're kind of like reddish, unless they're the other spider mites that you cannot see. They're real tiny, and they form a little webbing. So if you see some webbing on your plants, they have spider mites. You need to spray them with an insecticide. So a good insecticide for mealybugs, scale, and spider mites is a good insecticide. I use this. It's meant for roses and shrubs, but as long as he has, I can't pronounce this. I tried it on the other video, and I can't seem to pronounce it really good. So these are the active ingredients in this that I use, and it kills mites, it kills scale, it kills mealybugs, and it's an overall really great insecticide. So that's how you treat your plants if you have that. Now, what else? Oh, another thing, the problems that you could encounter while growing Phalaenopsis are mainly two things. There is something called botrytis, and there's something called Pseudomonas. Or let's talk about bacterial brown spot. Bacterial brown spot, it's really Pseudomonas, and it's really also known as crown rot. And it is a bacterial infection. So in order to cure that, you're going to need Cocide. This guy recommends Cocide. I haven't experienced that with my Phalaenopsis, maybe once or twice. But the key to that, if you don't want to get the bacterial side, what you could do is make sure that when you water your orchids, if you water your orchids, you make sure that no standing water is left here on the crown, because if it is and it stays there overnight, then the bacteria is going to grow. So what you could do, because normally, in nature, Phalaenopsis don't grow upright. Phalaenopsis grow like this, sideways. So if you have it like this, you have to make sure that no water's here. You have to increase circulation in wherever you have them, or dab it with a piece of tissue to absorb all that extra water. That's how I do it. Or you want to water real early in the morning so that you don't encounter that problem. So I'll show you what crown rot looks like. Like that. If you see anything like that on the top of your Phalaenopsis, that means you have crown rot. And guess what? If you don't treat it right away, your plant's going to die. This is a sure thing that's going to kill your plant. If you see that, it's probably a little bit too late. Even if you put the Cocide in there, it's more than likely it's going to die, because you have to scoop up all the infected part and then put the bactericide in there. So my recommendation is make sure that you dry the crown of your orchid so that you don't have that problem. Now, another thing that I want to talk about is this. This is botrytis. Botrytis is, unlike the bacteria that causes crown rot or the black bacterial brown spot, this is a fungus. And how do you cure a fungus? Well, with a fungicide. So what's recommended is Phalaenopsis. Botrytis, it's a fungus, and you can treat it with Phalaenopsis. And if what you want to do, more than likely, if you have it, it's going to show on the petals. So what you want to do is make sure you do a test on one of the petals on the lower part of your flowers, and if it damages, then you might not want to do that if you want to maintain the blooms. Now you can always kill it by increasing the circulation or increasing the temperature, because that fungus likes to grow in damp conditions where there's no very low air circulation. So you want to do that. Also, I want to touch a little bit on fertilizer. And fertilizer, I already ran out, but usually this is what I use. It's high in nitrogen, just like he recommends, throughout the year. Now, what he recommends is that once you start spiking on your orchids, like let's say like this one, see on this one nicely already has a spike. So what he recommends is you change the fertilizer from high nitrogen to high in phosphorus. So the phosphorus that I'm about to use is this. I know it looks like a 3, but it's really 12, 55, 6. This is what I'm going to use, and that's what I've been using before. So in order to induce spiking, he recommends 3 weeks of cold temperatures up to 58 and lower light, and then you increase the light. And here in San Antonio, we already had several days of lower temperatures, and since we do have a fairly amount of seasonal changes here, the light has been going down also. So I want to point out that on this one that I have, I don't know if you can see, there is something growing here. Wait, can you see it? There's something down in here. You see it? There. So I think this is a bloom spike. So hopefully I'll get a bloom off of this shortly. Well, not shortly, but it takes a while. But if you live in Florida, where you don't have a lot of seasonal change, you need to drop the temperature, otherwise your Phalaenopsis is not going to bloom. If you live somewhere up north, above Oklahoma, Texas, where you get seasonal temperatures drop for the fall or winter, then you'll be fine. The plant will know that it's time, because they need to be in what is called a stressful situation in order for them to bloom. So I think I covered everything. So I hope you like my video. I hope I covered everything. If you have any questions, let me know. Like my video, comment, share it, and happy growing. Happy Thanksgiving. Gobble, gobble, gobble. Talk to you later. Bye-bye. Oh, guess what? I have some blooming orchids that I'm going to make a video on, so watch that video too. Bye-bye.